Hello and welcome to another installment of You Can't Beat the Drums. This is kind of a weird installment because I got this drum set given to me free, and I had a video of my friend Cliff bringing it over from a garage sale or something where the woman apparently said, if you want it, you can have it. So he brought it over to my house, I had it all on video, and then my camera somehow lost the first several sections of this video. So I'll try to describe it. It's a black Rockwood by Hohner set, a kind of an entry-level kit. It had several cymbals. One was cracked. You'll see what I did with that a little later. It had a couple of extra hi-hat stands, no drum throne, double bass drum pedal, which Cliff said if I could fix it, he would like it. So I fixed the double bass drum pedal. It's down here on the floor. It's not a super high-end unit or anything. It's a Pacific. But I cleaned it all up for Cliff, replaced a missing part so it would work properly, and now he'll have a nice double bass pedal for his electronic kit, which he's going to buy. Anyway, I took bits and pieces I had laying around the garage, as you'll see, and I pieced together a set. I cleaned it all up, took it apart and everything. It actually sounds pretty good, and I'm going to sell it for $100 because basically I want somebody to get it who's just starting out, doesn't have a lot of money, but wants something that'll last them for a while. So I'll advertise it and I'll see what people say about their stories. And the person that has the most convincing story, hopefully they'll be telling the truth, they will be able to buy the drum set for $100. It'll have 13-inch Sabian hats, a 10-inch Sabian splash, basically, and an 18-inch crash ride, also Sabian. Entry-level stuff, but cleaned it up. You'll see at the end of the video, it looks pretty good. Sorry I missed the first part of this, but you'll kind of get the feel for it once we get started. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Thanks again for watching. Normally I do these cleanups in the house, as you all know if you've watched my other videos, but since my motorcycle unfortunately is not working, there it is right there, I have the expert Reg here. Say hi, Reg.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, there's Reg, and he's gonna try to get the thing resurrected. In the meantime, I'm going to sit out here and do the job I like the least with these old drum sets, and that's using steel wool to get all the junk off the hardware. Now there's an interesting mix of hardware here. I haven't even really looked at what's here, but I do know if you look at that, that's pretty grungy. It's going to take a little bit of work to get this thing cleaned up, but it appears there's two different hi-hat stands. So I'm thinking if I can put all this together and use maybe a couple of the pieces that I've got laying around to make the drum whole, I'll be able to come up with a set that's pretty decent, and I won't have to worry about charging too much for it, which is the whole point of doing these old drum sets. I should say doing this to these old drum sets. All right, so I'll start polishing with the steel wool. And by the way, if you're going to do this at home, use the 00000 steel wool. Otherwise, you may scratch things. In fact, even with that, be very careful. On some parts of these drum sets, the chrome may not be as high quality as maybe some of the other better quality drum sets, and the cheaper metals do tend to scratch a little sooner than the heavy-duty chrome you'll find on high quality drum sets. Okay, remember that old hi-hat stand that was so crusty and covered with junk? Take a look at it now. It looks beautiful. The chrome is shiny. There's none of that black, I think it was road tar or something that's on it. And it's just gorgeous. Now, my wife says, why do you keep all this junk? How could you possibly need any of this stuff? But I'll tell you what, because of all this stuff, I was able to find two little missing parts on that hi-hat stand. So that makes it worth keeping all this junk, because you never know when you're going to need something like a little washer that just fits the hi-hat cymbal adapter. And all this after only about 2 hours of work for a stand that used is worth about $50. So don't even think about what that is per hour. Well, the good news is the motorcycle's fixed and runs great. There's the North drums in the background. The bad news is that the very last little stand that I was working on with this free drum set that I got, that I'm trying to fix up without putting too much money in it, the problem is that that little hole right there stripped. it's stripped out. So I'm going to have to try to re-tap it and get another wing nut that fits. So this stand will then be usable again, excuse me. So let's see if we can do something about that, shall we? Gee, Chris, why do you keep all these bits and pieces and junk all over the place? Well, guess what? I just fixed this cymbal stand by putting a new wing bolt, slightly larger size in, and now the stand works. So there we go. See, saving all those parts makes sense. Until you have to move, of course. Then you wish you didn't have so much stuff. So this is the hardware that came with the free set, which was totally grungy and horrible. And now they all look really nice because I cleaned them all up and polished them. I will not use all of these stands for the free set. It's not actually going to be free. I'll have to charge a little bit, but not much, because if I can keep a couple of these stands, or maybe at least the hi-hat stands, I've got a little bit lighter duty hi-hat stand I'll probably put with the kit so it sort of matches the rest of the hardware. So if I can do that and add a couple cymbals and so forth, then I probably won't have to charge hardly anything for the free set, because the extra pieces I keep will help offset the expense I have for the other things I've used and parts that I need. So let's get to the drums next. Okay, I've moved the drums out here in the garage so I can clean them. There's also one of the cymbals that came with it has some cracks, and I'm going to try to do something I did years ago. I put the cymbal in a drill, put it in the vise, and tried to use a actual little blade thing that I've got to lathe off that edge, so I can basically make it a smaller cymbal. They sound kind of odd sometimes, but with this thing I'm going to give it a shot. What have I got to lose? It was free, and maybe I can make a useful cymbal out of it. We will see. The drums themselves, the wrap is kind of wrinkled in a couple places, which is unfortunate, but if I clean them all up, it should work okay. They should still look nice. And the reason they're out in the garage and not in the house is because they are rather filthy. For example, take a look at that. Oh boy, these have been neglected for a while. I'm not sure what I'm going to find living in there, but when I'm done, hopefully they'll look a little nicer than this. I'm going to start by disassembling everything, taking all the pieces apart, heads off, lugs off, the whole thing, so we can kind of see what we're dealing with. Well, there's the new cymbal. Now, kids, don't try this at home. I stuck a drill in a vise and took a sanding disc and squeezed the cymbal on it, and then I, with vice grips, held a little metal cube that I ground down to a point, and I basically just took the edge off the cymbal. You can see it in there. There's what I took off the cymbal. It's in the wastebasket now. There it is. That's part of the cymbal right there. And oops, it's kind of sharp. Anyway, and of course, while doing it, the drill got loose and the cymbal bounced on the floor, and a little flesh wound there. Luckily, it's minor, but that's why you never want to do this at home. Then use the file to kind of, file it down and stuff and all that. But yeah, you don't want to be doing this. It's way too dangerous for something like this. But I kind of enjoy it because I like to take risks. That's why I ride a motorcycle. Well, a little help from the barkeeper's friend. Get a little moist rag, sprinkle some of that on there, and the old 18-inch crack terrible cymbal now is a beautiful 16-inch crash. Look at that. That's pretty good. We'll have to see what it sounds like once I get it put back on the drum set. But a little bit of work, probably not worth it if you look at dollars per hour, but I just like restoring old things and making them look like new again so someone else can enjoy them for another few decades. So I'm going to disassemble some of these drums in the garage so all the gunk and junk won't end up in our house. And what I do is use this drill with the lug attachment, and it makes it very quick to simply take off the lugs very, very quickly. As you can see, makes it quite effective. And I'm noticing that I don't know if you can see this, the bass drum is unfortunately missing one of the spikes. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see. There it is. See, it's missing one of the... But I ordered a bunch of these for another drum set that I was working on. and I bought like 8 of them at a time. So hopefully one of those that I ordered will fit. I'll give that a try, and hopefully that'll make the bass drum complete. I'm going to have to take off that Zildjian sticker. I love Zildjian cymbals, but the sticker's kind of chewed up and looks horrible. So we'll get these things taken apart, polished up, cleaned up, and we'll kind of see what it looks like once I get it all done. There's that Zildjian sticker I was talking about that's going to come off. And look at the grime on this drum. It's something else. The other thing I realized, I did manage to find a couple of matching rubber spurs. It turns out both of them were missing, not just one. So that's on there, and that's good. But look at this. We got a problem, Houston. That is really loose. I'm going to have to put some new little Expando bolt things in there. I'm not sure what those things are called, but they have the little groove in them and they expand when you pound them in. They're obviously in there now, but they're not doing the job, so I'll have to add a couple extra ones so the bass drum's a little more sturdy. I'll take the rest of these heads off, and I'm taking them off outside so all the dirt and crud will fall in the driveway. This may not need to be said, but I would always organize everything into bags. You can label them. Keeps things much more organized when it comes to putting things back together. By the way, just take a look at this. This is what we're dealing with, the kind of grotty stuff that's involved with these drums. They really need a good cleaning. Be interesting to see how they look when I'm all finished. Okay, the heads are all off of them now, and I've given them sort of a cursory cleaning. As you can see, even wiping them off with a rag and some Speed Shine, that's Griot's Garage Speed Shine, didn't do a whole lot. I'm going to have to do some deep cleaning. The snare drums are kind of apart. This one's actually a 10 lug, which is impressive for an entry-level kit, but it does have bird poop on it, I think. I'm not sure what that is. You know, this whole set came with an extra snare drum too. It's a little 6 lug, so not a high-end snare, but you know, it's steel shell and probably could be sounding pretty good by the time we get done with it. We shall see. As far as the dirt, as I mentioned, there was a little dirt on these things. How much dirt, you say? Well, I would say just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit of dirt on these drums, and I haven't even gotten to the real cleaning part yet, so stay tuned. Several hours later, here are all the shells ready to be cleaned, including that, whatever that is, and all the dirt. The problem is that the shells have those wrinkles in them. The wrap has started to come off of the wood, probably because the glue wasn't sufficient to keep it on, or maybe they were left out in the sun. There are all the bags of goodies. There are all the drum heads and rims, and all of this has to be cleaned. The heads I might be able to look better. I've used Comet on Remo heads before. It works pretty well. We'll give that a shot. I've got the cymbals to clean up a little bit as well, but right now the main thing is these shells. I'm going to use my Griot's Garage buffing machine and a little compound and see if I can get them to look a little better. The wrinkles, I think, are there for good, but if they're shiny and the chrome looks great, that probably won't be all that noticeable and certainly won't affect the sound. This is what I use for the shells, generally the Correcting Cream Moderate defects. It's kind of a good compromise. It's shiny, but abrasive enough to get rid of some things. I used a different kind of, let me just show you the stuff I tried using on the chrome snare shells. It's this stuff. There it is, Never Dull it's called. And it worked okay. The Rockwood shell actually turned out fairly nice. You can see, compared to what it looked like before, oh look, you can see my reflection. Hi. Anyway, that's pretty beautiful. And it ended up looking really great. But the other shell, the less expensive shell, it has some marks on it and some things I think I'm going to try to buff out. I don't know if buffing's going to work. These may be metal scratches. If they're metal scratches, then they're going to be there forever. But again, this is not a real expensive snare, so I don't have a lot to lose trying this. I don't usually use buffing machine on chrome, but these I'll use the buffing machine on. And what I'll do is put blue painter's tape on the inside, right about here. I'll be putting blue painter's tape over that so the media, this stuff, doesn't come squirting through the holes and get all over the wood. I learned that the hard way early on. A little bit of painter's tape will keep the goo out of there, and on the surface where it's supposed to be. So let's try this snare drum and then we'll see how that goes, and then I'll move on to the bass drum, floor tom, and toms. Wow, I am impressed. That Griot's, a couple times around the drum with the Griot's buffing machine, and this thing, which had marks and stuff all over it, looks absolutely beautiful now. That is amazing. I guess I've found my new best friend when it comes to polishing chrome. Amazing. I don't mean to get ahead of myself, but I need to put my head in the right space so that I can get ahead. Oh, I already said that. Anyway, these are the drum heads, and as you can see, these snare heads are, well, they're not very attractive. Some of these other heads too have a lot of dirt on them, like those. This has lots of marks and drips from something. This has another one of those blasted Zildjian stickers on there. I tried to get the other one off the bass drum. It took over an hour. It was like crystallized. It just took forever. So I fear that this will be the same problem. And the other problem is that the Rockwood by Hohner will probably come off immediately if I try to use that Goo Gone. So what I might try with this one is I might try the old warm water and soap trick and see if that will loosen it up to get it off of there, because it does look like the same kind of sticker that the other one was. As far as these go, Comet and water, warm water, seems to work well on Remo heads. The Remo logo might disappear, I'm not sure, but the point is it'll make the heads look a lot better. There's a little bit of wear through on this one, so that will show, and a tiny bit on that one as well. But with any luck, they'll look a lot better than they do right now. I'll report back once I get the Comet duty over with. These, I'll probably use the Griot's buffing machine on. Now, the Remo logo does disappear, but the lines tend to remain on there just fine, those black circles. These clear heads, some of them have some dents. And I think in one of my last videos, I tried the old hair dryer on the dent trick, and it actually did get rid of some of the little dimples. So we'll try that again and see if I can get these heads to look a little better than they do now. But I want you to just remember what these look like now. So in the next scene, when they're all clean, you'll be able to see with a rag, some Comet, and gentle circular rubbing what these things turn into. After several more hours, I have all the rims polished and all the chrome pieces polished in their respective bags, which reminds me of a lyric, the dumbest song lyric ever. And the lyric is, "The food was totaled up and bagged." That is actually a line from a song by an artist, Dan Fogelberg, who I really, really like. But this one particular song has that line stuck in it, and I think it's kind of a silly line. If you can identify the song, you could win valuable prizes, but probably not. Anyway, I will start assembling the drums soon. I do have to look at the drum heads and find out if I want to try to recondition the ones I got with the kit, or if I should look at my big collection and see if I can find some heads that are maybe better that I already have that I can swap out. And then it's the big assembly time. Then I'll take a look at the cymbals, see if I need to polish them up and decide which cymbals are going to go with this kit. Then I got to figure out what I'm going to charge. It won't be much because I got a lot of this stuff, free. However, I'm going to have to add a drum throne and miscellaneous bits and pieces and other parts, not to mention all the ridiculous cleaning supplies I went through. That steel wool is great, but it does get worn out, and you have to keep going to new pads every time the ball of steel wool ends up being a bunch of little crusty tidbits laying in your lap after scrubbing these rims and lugs. So we'll keep you posted in the next segment of this video. Remember how the bass drum spurs were so wiggly? Well, I'm taking a look at them now, and you can see that there's a kind of a weird little Phillips screw type thing trying to hold this one on, and this one's got some other kind of a weird screw that looks like the head might have gotten twisted off or something. So obviously somewhat problematic. What I'm going to probably do is take those out and re-drill the holes and replace them with these compression deals that will hopefully hold the legs securely, because this kind of Rube Goldberg thing just won't do. I looked at all the drum heads that I had and basically just polished up the ones that came with it. That one's got a tiny pinhole, which probably won't affect anything. That one has a little bit of strangeness in the center there, a little bit of separating between the two heads. But again, probably not going to affect the sound very much at all. That tom head's in reasonably good condition. So I'm going to go ahead and use those. The snare heads, as you saw in one of the earlier videos, ended up looking way better. Little middle hole mark, and now it's not a hole, it's just a bit of worn coating, and then this one looks quite a bit better too. So these will go back on the snares. I got the bass drum spurs fixed. I basically just redid the that right there. You can see the pressure fit deals. I put larger ones in, and that seems to have gotten rid of the wiggle. The shells are all polished up. They're again slightly wrinkled in the wrap department, but won't affect the sound. And the bass drum, you can still just see the outline if you look really closely. I don't know if you'd be able to see it in this light, but you can just barely see the Zildjian sticker outline, but it's very, very faint. So nothing to worry about. The snare shells look great. Hardware looks great. Now it's time to get busy with the electric screwdriver and put her all together. So I got about 7 or 8 of the 10 lugs mounted on this shell, and suddenly I realized I'd forgotten something. What I forgot was that these inexpensive drums usually have these springs inside the lugs with nothing to dampen them, so they sort of act like little reverb tanks, and they ring and resonate. And what you'll find in a lot of drums is that they'll put little pieces of foam inside or something like that to deaden that spring so it won't vibrate. So I had to take all the lugs back off again because I'm going to take this, basically it's a microfiber cloth, I'm going to cut it in little strips like this, and then using a screwdriver, I'm just going to tuck the cloth around the spring in such a way that the spring won't be able to make vibrations anymore. And I'm going to do that with all the lugs and all the drums. So I'm sacrificing a couple of microfiber cloths for this, but in the long run it should make the drums sound better. Just a little tip for those of you reconditioning drums at home. Uh-oh, calamity. One of the problems with these inexpensive heads is they're not necessarily that strong. As I was tightening the snare head, all of a sudden it completely pulled out of its ring. So unfortunately that snare head is history. Now I did have a head that's very thin, and it had coating, which I removed with Goof Off. And this head, although it was probably originally a batter head, because it is so thin, that is now going to be the new snare head for this drum, because I don't have an actual snare head sitting around, and a new snare head's probably 20 bucks or something. So anyway, I will, to keep the cost down, reuse that head, and we should be in good shape. I'll keep you posted. When I got this drum kit, inside the bass drum was this. Now, I showed you what the condition was of the set when I got it, and I thought, what should I do with this thing? And I thought, well, I'll wash it and dry it, which I did. So it's all washed and dried now, but I don't really want this thing hanging around my house. So despite the fact a lot of people will be annoyed that I muffle the bass drum so much, I think the best place for this to live is back inside the bass drum. So that's where it's going. It'll have that nice rock and roll thud sound. This kit came with some mufflers too. These are the little practice pad kind of things that you put on your drums so you can practice without waking up the neighbors. I washed them off, rinsed them. They're kind of drying right now. Were they dirty, you ask? Well, this rag used to be white. Yeah, and so the answer is unequivocally yes. Okay, throw that away. So there's the finished product. I basically put bits and pieces together. Some of the stuff that came with it I'm going to save and maybe use with another kit. But basically what I decided to do was put together Sabian cymbals. We got these little 13-inch Sabian hats, 10-inch splash, and then an 18-inch crash ride. The heads are okay. They're not bad. This one is sort of delaminating a little, but they don't sound too bad. And the bass drum sounds pretty good. It does have that big pad thing in it, which some people hate. And I did put these rings on it. I'll show you what it sounds like, both with the rings and without the rings. Snare has a little bit of wear in the middle, but other than that, I cleaned it up pretty nicely. So the wrap has some buckling, as I mentioned, but I added a drum throne to it, cleaned everything up, and it really doesn't look bad. It's a nice little kit. So let's hear what it sounds like with a old, no longer professional drummer at the helm. This is with the tone rings on the toms. And this is what it sounds like with the tone rings off. Just set them over here. Not bad. I think I'll charge $100 for it. Pretty good starter kit for somebody. Well, I think I have some prospective buyers showing up. Oh, yep, I hear the doorbell and I hear the dogs barking. That must be a good sign. Come on in. You'll hear our dogs yelling upstairs.
Oh, okay.
You are
Tubit.
Tubit. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you.
Yeah.
And
My son MJ.
MJ, good to see MJ. Come on in. Come on in.
Thanks.
So we'll have to just ignore the dogs.
Yeah.
And there's the set right there. Come on in, take a look at it.
Nice.
And
It's a nice set.
like I said, I took it all apart and cleaned it. You'll be able to watch on the video
Right.
all the work I did on it.
Okay.
And
So you restore and then fix it all nicely?
took it all completely apart, polished every piece, put it all back together again.
Wow.
I'll tell you the problems with it first. The problems are that the wrap, as you can tell, is kind of wrinkling like this.
That's fine.
And that's a little bit of a problem. This drum head has a tiny hole right there, a little teeny pinhole, but
Oh.
doesn't really affect it.
Yeah, sure.
What else? Let's see. Snare's a little bit of wear in the middle. That's no big deal. And
That's
this has
fine.
some little dents on it.
Yeah, that's fine.
But other than that, the heads are all Remos.
Yeah.
These are, I added these two. These are the rings, which help the drums sound a little bit open like that. You put this on it, and it gets rid of some of the overtones. A little bit warmer sound.
yeah,
Some people
right.
really like that. Other
Right.
people like the open sound. I've always kind of preferred this. I kind of like both now.
Right.
And then the throne is adjustable, of course. You've got there's a bass drum with a pad built into it. And then this is an 18-inch crash ride. Splash cymbal, and then the hi-hat. So, and you get a drum key too. So you can
Right,
tune
key,
it.
right.
Anyway,
Oh,
so
nice.
overall though, it actually. That's pretty good actually. $100, there you go. Not a bad deal,
Thanks,
right?
man. You can play. You can really play. Did you
So
teach?
I used to teach a long, long time ago. I'm old and out of shape now. But, $100. Oh, awesome.
Thank
yes.
you. Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Thanks a lot.
No problem. I'll tell you what, if you want to just start taking it apart, how much experience have you had with drums before? You know how they all come apart and everything?
I mean, I was in the church, but I didn't play the instrument, but I take it apart. Yeah.
What church you go to?
I go to FBC in on how you call it, Portland Avenue.
Very Very good. Well, a couple
Well,
little
thanks.
hints. First of all, what you want to do with these cymbals
Right.
is you want it to keep fingerprints off them because they'll turn green if you get grease on them.
Okay.
So when you take them off, pretend. Remember back in the old days we had records,
Right.
actual vinyl records.
Right.
What you do is you take them and hold them like records. Is first of all, I'll show you the cymbal trick. Cymbal is you hold them by the edges like that.
Okay.
Don't put your fingers on them because then they turn green.
Okay.
But the drums, the best way to do it is to simply loosen these like so.
Right.
Then it just slides right off of there.
Oh,
And then you loosen this one, just like that, like that. That's how you do it. That way you can just slide that back in again when you get it. If you want, what you could do is go like this,
Right.
and then put that on the top of here. They should all fit. And then you can just take it out. One.
You want to take that
There
whole
you go.
shit?
You want to grab that?
You got it?
That's okay. Just grab one of the rooms there. Quick enough to tip it over.
You can
Again, these things you want to basically, when you put the little screw device on there, you want to go ahead and screw it all the way down because then what happens is this plastic thing goes past the edge of the cymbal and it protects the cymbal from keyholing.
Okay.
Because that rubbing against the metal will eventually make the hole a different shape.
Right.
So when you screw this all the way down, it protects that edge.
Okay.
So that's the trick with the cymbals.
All right.
And I'll show you the rest of how you pull all this stuff down, but first I'm going to turn off the video because most drummers watching this are probably already familiar with how to put a drum set into a case and pack it up. So. Okay, the drums are all loaded up now. It's time to sign the hold harmless agreement. All you do is just print your name and sign it. That just says that you're not going to demand a bunch of money in case this video goes completely viral and millions of people watch it. And yeah, just write your name in there. That's awesome. And then we will say goodbye. Very good. Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Christopher.
Yep, no problem.
Have a good day.
There they go, off in their vehicle. See you later. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Thanks. Great.
Well, another successful drum extravaganza here. I'm thinking that family probably could have afforded a more expensive drum kit based on the watch that guy was wearing. It looked pretty nice to me. But it's going to his son. I think it's a younger son. Been wanting to play drums for a long time. Apparently I don't know if he's in a band with some people or wants to take lessons or whatever, but he was somebody that answered the ad, seemed pretty nice. And he was the first one to show up with cash. So best of luck to him. Best of luck to his son. Maybe his son will become the next Buddy Rich. We can only hope. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And check out my channel, Chris the Drummer Kimball, for other exciting videos.